Good morning, everyone. Jake, I just want to do one more check and make sure that we are being heard in the Zoom webinar.
It's more like go with the flow, like whatever's going on.
Yeah. It'll be hot, no matter what.
Okay.
Check. Check.
Check.
All right. So,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I think we will be ready to begin the meeting on time.
Thank you, Sam. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's August 25th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. I will go ahead and call it to order at 9 a.m. and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Present.
Commissioner Chavez.
Present.
Commissioner Hess.
Present.
Chair Price.
Present.
Thank you.
We will go ahead and verification of legal notice.
Legal notice has been determined on each matter on the agenda.
Thank you, Jim. And we will, we're looking for approval on the consent agenda for the two items listed on the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move that items 4A and 4B be approved.
I second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hess.
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Chair Price.
Yes. Motion carries. And next thing we will do before we take up our first timed item is citizens' input. This is an opportunity for anyone to speak on an item that is not on today's agenda or scheduled for a future public hearing. Any hands in the Zoom room? Okay, no hands in the Zoom room. No one in chambers wishing to speak on citizens' input. Our first timed item is scheduled for 9:05. I am showing a time now of 9:03. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Time now is 9:05. We will take up our first item. This was continued from July 15th, 2022. It's a public hearing and consideration of proposed 20-year extension for a mine, UPX 19-04, for use permit UPM 10-01 in categorical exemption CE 19-98. Applicant is Clear Lake Ready Mix. Project location is 12572 White Rock Canyon Road, Upper Lake, APN 022-009-06. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I don't believe your mic is on.
Check, 1, 2.
There you are. Okay,
This wasn't close enough.
there you go. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, as the chair indicated, this was continued from July 14th. The reason for the continuation had to do with tribal concerns about the project and the site. Between July 14th and today, the tribe met with the owner of Ready Mix. The historic preservation officer for the tribe actually did a site visit and walked the site and is convinced that the extension can be granted without any adverse impacts to any cultural resources on the site. There's no expansion proposed. This is a continuation of an existing project. You indicated the address, the location. It's located in Upper Lake on White Rock Canyon Road. Property owner is Richard Thorne. The original use permit was issued in the year 2000 under UP 98-05 and was extended again in 2010. So this extension, if granted, would allow up to 20 years of time. Here's some aerial photo showing the site. And again, no expansion is proposed. This is merely an extension of an existing project. Site plan. In the general plan, it's listed as being rural lands and resource conservation. We found that these categories are met and are consistent with mining extraction in this location. Neese Upper Lake Area Plan, we were able to make a finding that this project is in compliance. Thank you, Sam. I'm kind of new at mines, and so bear with me here. I'm not quite sure which of these points I need to identify. The Aggregate Resource Management Plan conformance, we were able to make the finding that it did conform to the Aggregate Resource Management Plan, and the bullet points are here. Surface Mining and Reclamation Act, we were able to make a finding that it did comply. Zoning ordinance, Article 27.27.11T allows for excavation of sand and gravel pond in the RL zoning district with a major use permit. This extension actually does apply to a major use permit, so that would apply. CEQA, the original mine went through an extensive CEQA evaluation back in year 2000. The criteria were a bit different back then. It's been elaborated on quite a bit at the state level. However, being an extension, we were able to make a finding that there would be no increase to impacts associated with the extension itself. Therefore, we're recommending a categorical exemption, and the details to the categorical exemption qualifiers are within this paragraph. I indicated that the tribe had met with the owner of the facility, Robert Geary, who had actually testified at the July 14th hearing, visited the site in July, and the tribe and the property owner came to an understanding about resource removal on the site. Mr. Geary then notified planning staff that the project was okay to proceed. Our recommendation to adopt categorical exemption CE 19-98 and to approve UPX 19-04. And with that, I will take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Any questions from the commissioners for staff before I open it up for public comment?
I have just one quick question, and I do support this project. Is there a reason that the extension is for 20 years this time? It looks like it's been 10 years as a rule.
No, it has more to do with the consistency of other applications. The other two mine applications that had been brought before the Planning Commission on July 14th were all granted a 20-year period of time, I believe, for activity. And so to keep it consistent, we put 20 years in. It could be 10 or a different number if you feel more comfortable with a different number.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Brown, any questions or comments for staff before I open it up for public comment?
No questions or comments.
Okay, I will open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak about this item, you're welcome to approach the podium. Are there any hands in the Zoom room?
There are no hands in the Zoom room.
No hands in the Zoom room. Okay. So it looks like nobody in chambers would like to speak, so I will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for motion or just further discussion.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
If there's no other comments from the commission. I move that the County of Lake Planning Commission, The Commission recommend that the Board of Supervisors approve a one-year extension of time. Wait, am I on the right one? No, I'm on the wrong one, sorry. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
That didn't sound right. Okay, I got it. Yeah. I move that the Planning Commission find that the use permit extension UPX 19-04 applied by Clear Lake Ready Mix on property located on 12572 White Rock Canyon Road, Upper Lake, California, and known as APN 022-009-06 is exempt from CEQA because it falls within the Categorical Exemption Class 4 based on the findings set forth in the staff report dated August 25th, 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hess,
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Chair Price.
Aye. Motion carries.
I further move that the Planning Commission find that the use permit extension UPX 19-04 applied by Clear Lake Ready Mix on property located on 12572 White Rock Canyon Road, Upper Lake, California, and known as APN 022-009-06 does meet the requirements of Section 51.4A of the Lake County zoning ordinance, and that the Planning Commission has reviewed and considered the categorical exemption CE 19-98, which was adopted for this project, and use permit extension UPX 19-04 be granted for a period of 20 years and subject to the conditions and with the findings listed in the staff report dated August 25th, 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hess,
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Chair Price.
Aye. Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7-calendar-day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination. Okay, moving on to our next item. Thanks. All right, well, I just wanted to check the time. This item was also continued from July 15th, 2022. Public hearing and consideration of a proposed one-year subdivision extension, SDX 22-01 for Valley Oaks subdivision, and consider its inclusion under the original FEIR and addendum. Applicant Valley Oaks Partners, LLC, Keith Gapson, located at 18196 and 18426 South State Highway 29, Middletown, APNs 014-260-51, 36, and 24.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, the item was continued from July 14th. Applicant's requesting a one-year extension, and I need to point out two things. First of all, in the motion itself, the very last sentence needs to be stricken.
Okay, on the sample motions?
Let me verify that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last part of the last sentence needs to be stricken, beginning with the word and with the additional conditions of approval stated herein.
Okay.
Extensions don't need conditions. I was unaware of that until, well, today. So
Okay.
we don't need to have that line in there. We also do not need to have the conditions attached to it, since the original conditions would remain in full force and effect.
Okay.
So this item came before you on July 14th. It was continued until today. There were some questions that we had internally that we've since been able to answer. Subdivision Map Act actually allows for up to 6 years of extensions, which is in direct conflict with the county code. Applicant's not requesting more than the one-year extension, so this extension would only apply to this calendar, well, this year. Expiration originally, I believe, is in April, so it would continue this until April of 2023. they would be able to further extend if they make the application prior to the expiration of the subdivision. Subdivision is located in the vicinity of Hidden Valley Lake. The entire property is 150 acres, excluding a lot that would be the subject of a modification that hasn't yet come before the Planning Commission. The additional lot would actually add a secondary access as part of the subdivision, but it's not under consideration for the extension. I just wanted to give the Planning Commission a heads up that it will be brought before the Planning Commission probably in September as a separate freestanding modification to add the lot for the secondary access. So again, I indicated this request for a one-year extension to an approved subdivision tentative vesting map. Extensions are allowed under Chapter 17 of the County Code, as well as under the Subdivision Map Act. Indicated the modification will come later, so that is not under review at this time. Here's a snapshot of the subdivision map, and that does not include the modification lot. History of the subdivision. It was originally approved January 25th, 2018. MAP Act allows granting of an extension for a period of periods of time not exceeding 8 years. I believe that should be 6 years, but we can confirm that at the time that we need to apply it. Applicant applied for the extension September of 2019. The zoning had changed from Ag to PDC, Design Review, and PDR through General Plan Amendment from 2005, rezone, and General Plan of Development also in 2005. First specific subplan occurred in 2019 under UP 19-09, which was approved on February 18th of 2020. Two-year extension was approved on April 9th, 2020, and this extension was filed prior to the expiration of the subdivision. We're recommending the Planning Commission recommending the Planning Commission recommend that the board grants an additional 1 year from the date of approval. On here I showed as July 14th. I believe that's incorrect. I believe it should be to April 2023. Analysis. We have to compare this request up against the general plan, the Middletown area plan, the zoning ordinance, and Chapter 17 of the County Code, which applies to land divisions. So we were able to make the finding that this request does meet Chapter 17 of the County Code. Subdivision Map Act allows for up to 6 years. That's what I thought. Of extensions, so this would be year 3 if granted. CEQA recommendation, there's been no significant change in the project that would create new significant environmental impacts. An addendum to the original EIR was prepared in 2019 for the grocery outlet and included the modification lot, which has a secondary access. No new information of substantial importance to the project has become available specific to this extension. Therefore, we're recommending that the Planning Commission recommend that the board accept the 2019 addendum to the 2006 final environmental impact report that had been adopted by the county, and that the Planning Commission recommend that the board extend SDX 22-01. It doesn't need to have conditions tied to it, so that part would not apply, for a period of 1 year to, that should be April of 2023. And so with that, I'll entertain any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Any of the commissioners have any questions for staff or possibly the applicant if they are here? No? Public comment? Okay, I just want to check in with Commissioner Brown just to make sure you don't have any questions for staff.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. I will open it up for public comment.
Madam Chair?
Oh, please.
One observation. Eric, the FEIR addendum on page 4 makes a reference to, at the very top of the page, findings, makes a reference to the county of San Benito. And I didn't know whether that was just a typo or if all the language after San Benito is pasted in from a different document or what.
Well, the original author of much of this report was from San Benito County, so I can only speculate that it was a cut and paste error that I didn't catch.
If
Okay.
we could just make that modification.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Hess. We will definitely make note of that. And public comment is officially open, so feel free to approach the podium.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I'm Rick Tooker. I'm a land use planner for Farella, Braun, and Martell, and I'm here to represent the applicant and owners of the project, the Valley Oaks property. Valley Oaks is here today. Sometimes it's hard to tell with today's world and who's attending, but our property owners and surveyor are actually here in the meeting, as we were at the last meeting that was continued. I want to leave my comments brief because a map extension is a pretty routine matter. I want to express my appreciation for Eric's work. He's been really receptive. We talk frequently about the project since he's taken it on. I started in October on it, but since he's taken it on in April, it's really starting to move. So we appreciate that work. We also appreciate and acknowledge the amendments that were made today relative to removing unnecessary conditions for a routine map extension, and the clarification, although it's a little bit disappointing that it's not August or July, the clarification that it's a one-year extension to the April date. At the next item, I'd like to bring you up to speed on where we are with the project and offer a recommendation from us for a continuance to the October meeting, but I'll do that at the next item. Unless you have any questions of me, I'm happy to take them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this agenda item?
Commissioners, if I may,
Please.
I just wanted to bring to your attention that the code section cited in the report, 66413.5, Part D, that staff had cited in relation to extensions, does not in fact apply here.
Okay.
That applies to subdivisions for cities, I think, is my understanding, and that's not what we have in front of you today. We don't have a subdivision for a newly incorporated city.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Any further public comment on this agenda item? Okay. Any hands in the Zoom room?
We don't have any hands.
No hands in the Zoom room. I will close public comment officially and bring it back to the commission for action.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Please.
I move that the County of Lake Planning Commission recommend that the Board of Supervisors approve a one-year extension of time for subdivision SD 06-01 with the findings listed in the staff report dated August 25, 2022, and as amended here today.
I second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hess,
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Chair Price.
Aye. Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the subdivision ordinance provides for a 15 calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 15th calendar day following the Commission's final determination. Moving on to our next item, this item was also continued from July 15th, 2022. Public hearing and consideration of a proposed parcel map PM21-31 to create 3 commercially zoned lots and an inclusion under the original FEIR and addendum. Applicant is Valley Oaks Partners LLC with Keith Gubson, located at 18196 and 18426 South State Highway 29, Middletown. APNs 014-260-51, 36, and 24. Eric.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The applicants requested a continuance. The only question I have is to what date? Applicant indicated October would be satisfactory to them, but I'm not sure if the director wanted to propose a special meeting in September. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mireya to address whether that's on the table or
Thank you.
requested.
At this point, we'll cover possible movement of the meeting location at the regularly scheduled or a special meeting. However, the department does support the applicant's request for a continuance. It makes sense to present this to the Planning Commission along with the modification to the use permit that's coming. However, that modification is not ready. When I spoke with the county surveyor today, he did not have an anticipated date, and so staff does request that this be continued to a date uncertain. We will go ahead and renotice both the modification to the use permit as well as this parcel map project together for a future hearing date.
Okay, thank you, Director. So that being said, we are looking for a motion for the continuance.
Madam Chair, I move that item 6C be continued to a date uncertain.
I second.
Roll call vote.
Commissioner Hess,
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Chair Price.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Moving on to our next item. Item 6D was continued from August 11th, 2022. Public hearing and consideration of a proposed major use permit, UP 22-20, for a 170-foot tall lattice cell tower with a 20-foot tall whip antenna mounted on top and support equipment within a 100 by 100 enclosed lease area and mitigated negative declaration based on initial study IS 22-21. Applicant is CompSites West. Project location 20226 East Highway 20, Clear Lake Oaks. APN 010-009-3940 and 42. In just a moment while we get our report up for you. Excellent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this was originally scheduled for August 11th. However, it was continued to this hearing.
One moment. Eric, will you just move your mic a little? There you go. That should be better. Perfect.
Check.
There you go.
To repeat, this item was originally scheduled for August 11th. It was continued until today. It's for a telecommunication tower located on the outskirts of Spring Valley and Clear Lake Oaks. Proposal is for a 170-foot tall cell tower under UP 22-20. We did do an initial study, and we found that the impacts that are associated can be mitigated with conditions of approval. So the request, again, the tower is 170 feet tall with a 20-foot tall whip antenna. It would be within a 100 by 100 foot enclosure, 10,000 square feet. There would be 4 microwave dishes. The property is 632 net acres. Zoning is APZ for the tower site and RL and A for a portion of the property that does not include the tower. Lease area is outside of the PG&E easement. They would be able to co-locate, which is one of the benefits of having a lattice tower as opposed to a monopole, which can only support one carrier. The initial study was sent to the state on June 8th, 2022. We did not receive any adverse agency comments. We have received one adverse comment from a member of the Shoreline Communities. I believe her name is Hanson. I don't remember her first name. Her comment should be in the packet as an exhibit. don't see it included in here. But we did receive a letter objecting to the height, to the location, to the fact that it's on the border of I guess, a national monument, but it's not within the parameters of that national monument. The tower site is on the upper part of the property, with the highway being at the bottom of this graphic. The stars on the other two lots simply show ownership. They don't directly pertain to the tower other than the access, which would be used seldomly for tower maintenance and which would cut through the property leading to the tower site. Here's another snapshot of the tower site. You see the enclosure here, and again with the highway being off the map, so it's a significant distance from the highway. Most of the site is steep, it's over 30%. However, the building pad where the tower would go is about 10% slope. It's quite a bit less slope on the tower pad. I indicated the size of the enclosure. They would have to do internal driveway improvements. Turnouts would be provided. And the interior driveway would have to meet CAL FIRE driveway standards, which is a condition of approval for this tower. The elevations, it's a significant tower. It's 170 plus a 20-foot tall whip antenna. And one thing I did want to point out, the same identical tower had been approved by the Planning Commission in 2018 in the same identical location, which made bringing this back fairly easy compared to a brand new tower, a brand new site. We upgraded the initial study, resubmitted that to the state, and we're able to make the findings that are required for a major use permit associated with the cell tower. So having said that, we have to check for general plan conformance with the Shoreline Communities Area Plan, and the zoning ordinance as is applicable. Article 51.4, use permits. There are 6 findings that have to be made for any major use permit. That the use applied for will not be detrimental to the health, safety, morals, comfort, and general welfare of persons residing or working in the neighborhood. And we were able to make a finding that this would in fact help emergency services, and to that end would be a benefit to that general area, which tends to have relatively poor cell phone coverage. Number 2, the site is adequate in size, location, and physical characteristics to accommodate the use. Again, the property is about 632 acres in size. The tower will be located over 260 feet from the nearest property line. The pad itself is about 10,000 square feet in size. Number 3, the streets, highways, and pedestrian facilities are reasonably adequate to accommodate the proposed use. The site is served by Highway 20 and would rely heavily on an interior driveway, which is going to be required to meet CAL FIRE Public Resource Code 4290 and 4291 driveway standards. That includes turnouts. Number 4, that there's adequate public or private services such as fire protection, water, sewer, and power. I indicated the site served by Highway 20 and through the internal driveway. The site actually does have a house on it which is already served with septic, although the tower obviously wouldn't require septic or water. There is power available to the site, to the existing house, and the power demands for a cell tower are relatively minimal. Number 5, project complies with all applicable plans. So we were able to make a finding that it does comply with the general plan, the Shoreline Communities Plan, and the applicable portions of the Lake County zoning ordinance. And then finally, there are no violations of chapters 5, 17, 21, 23, or 26 that exist on the property, and we were able to make that verification that there are no documented violations on the site. Article 6 is silent on cell towers. That would apply to the Ag Preserve Zone. However, Article 27, Table B lists wireless communication towers as being a permitted use in this zone with a major use permit. Telecommunications Act of 1996, I put a paragraph in here that sums up what that Telecommunication Act is intended to do, and the fact that this tower would fall under the Telecommunication Act. CEQA, I indicated that we did an initial study. There were some potential impacts associated with the tower that we believe can be met through mitigation measures. Consequently, we're recommending the adoption of initial study IS 22-21 and the approval of major use permit 22-20 with conditions. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions or discussion from the commissioners to staff or the applicant? I can see Commissioner Brown doesn't want to or doesn't have any comments.
No comments.
Okay. We will open it up for public comment. Anybody wishing to speak on this agenda item is welcome to approach the podium, or if you are in the Zoom room, please raise your hand. Okay. I'm not seeing anyone in chambers or in the Zoom room.
No hands in the Zoom room.
Okay. I'll officially close public comment and bring it back to the commission for action.
Are we considering a variance here because it's exceeding the allowable height, or are we just simply
You know,
acting on?
I kind of struggle with that a little bit, and I wanted to re-verify that it is in fact permissible under our current code. Article 71 mentions a maximum height of 150 feet. However, Article 42.14 allows for heights that exceed whatever is specified in the zoning ordinance through a major use permit. An analysis was done in 2018 when this tower came before the Planning Commission. I was not involved with it at that time. I'm sorry. I did use the original staff report as a template for my report, and there's a brief analysis on the height, which I believe is on page 2. It doesn't go into any great detail of it, but I did verify this morning that there is a provision in Article 42 under sub 14 that allows for increased height to anything in the zoning ordinance through a major use permit. Carrier indicated that the height is necessary in order to have the efficient and effective telecommunication, which is what the tower is intended for. So they need the height in order for the tower to function correctly. And I believe it's permissible under 42.14.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Eric.
If there's no other comments, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Sure.
I did have one other question really quick. In regards to the National Monument, Eric, what was the major concern, that it was just located near the National Monument?
Well, it was kind of hard to tell from the letter exactly what her concern was. I think it had to do with it's in relative proximity to a national monument, but you know, honestly, it's located quite a ways from the northern, or I guess that'd be the eastern property line. The closest property line is about 263 feet from the tower. The property line that she's concerned about is at least double that distance, if not further, and it would be on the ridge top.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No more
Commissioners?
Comments?
Yes, Nicole?
Just to clarify, Commissioner Hess, your specific question is to height. 42.12 of the zoning ordinance relates to height in yard exceptions for utility facilities, and it states that utility distribution and transmission poles and towers are exempt from the maximum height and minimum yard requirement regulations of this chapter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I move that the Planning Commission find on the basis of the initial study, number 22-21, prepared by the Planning Division and mitigated measures which have been added to the project, that the use permit UP 22-20, as applied for by ComSite West, will not have a significant effect on the environment, and therefore a mitigated negative declaration shall be issued with the findings listed in the staff report dated August 25th, 2022.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hess,
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Chair Price.
Aye. Motion carries.
I move that the Planning Commission find that the use permit UP 22-20 applied by ComSite West on property located at 2114, 2226, and 2662 East Highway 20, Clear Lake Oaks, California 95423, further described as APNs 010-009-42 and 010-009-39 and 010-009-40, does meet the requirements of Section 51.4 of the Lake County Zoning Ordinance and grant the major use permit based on the findings and conditions of approval listed in the staff report dated August 25th, 2022.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hess,
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Chair Price.
Aye. Motion carries.
I move that the Planning Commission find that the wireless communication facility applied for by ComSite West on property located on 2114, 2226, and 2662 East State Highway 20, Clear Lake Oaks, California 95423, further described as APN 010-009-42, which is the project site, and 010-009-39 and 010-009-40 access only, does meet the requirements of Section 71.13 of the Lake County Zoning Ordinance, and that the Planning Commission has reviewed and considered the mitigated negative declaration which was adopted for this project, and the wireless communication facility be granted based on the findings and conditions of approval listed in the staff report dated August 25th, 2022.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hess,
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Chair Price.
Aye. Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7-calendar-day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate form and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination.
That's the next one right here.
Okay. Moving on to item 6E, public hearing and consideration of use permit extension, UPX 22-02 for a 5-year extension for an existing billboard categorical exemption CE 19-98. Applicant is La Monica Outdoor Advertising. Project location is 131 Soda Bay Road, Lakeport. APN 008-019-69.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Applicant's applying for a 5-year extension, which is required under Article 45 of the zoning ordinance for any billboard. Applicant's got, thank you, Sam, several billboards in Lake County. This is the most recent that's coming up for renewal, and so it's being brought before the Planning Commission today for a 5-year extension. It's located at Mark Tonti's mini storage facility, which is on a 7+ acre property in the M1 light industrial zone. Billboards are in a permitted use within the M1 zone, so the use is not in question at that location. Parcel number is shown here. Address is 131 Soda Bay Road in Lakeport. Aerial photos showing the approximate location with respect to Highway 29. I indicated that it is allowed under Article 45 of the zoning ordinance and the use is established. Zoning map shows the light industrial zoning in the light blue. And again, it's visible from the highway. This was taken from Google Earth Pro. I think the same sign is still up. General plan, we have to evaluate it for compliance with the general plan, the applicable area plan, and the zoning ordinance. So we were able to make the finding that it did meet the requirements in the general plan. The Lakeport area plan had no conflicts with granting this extension, and it did comply with the applicable portions of the zoning ordinance, in particular the M1 zoning. I believe it's table 27, which names, no, that's not correct. It's Article 45, which names billboards as a permitted use in certain zones. Article 45 has limits to certain aspects of signs. This sign is within the parameters that are established within Article 45. Article 21, the M1 zoning standards, allows billboards subject to a major use permit, although a billboard is not a named use in Article 21. Article 45 again, billboards authorizes extensions for billboards that would otherwise expire. That would be under subsection 22 of Article 45. CEQA, it's an existing sign, no changes are proposed to the sign. It was evaluated for compliance with CEQA in 1993, and it's eligible for a categorical exemption under section 15301, existing facilities. Our recommendation is to adopt categorical exemption CE 22-38 and to approve a 5-year permit extension under file number UPX 22-02. I don't believe the conditions would apply. I think the original conditions remain in full force and effect. The motion on page 6 actually does refer to the conditions, but it doesn't say which conditions. So I think adding the word original conditions prior to the word conditions may be appropriate. I'm not sure if legal counsel has any input on that or not.
If staff could clarify what is meant by conditions here. So if there were, I think I have an echo. If there were prior conditions.
Get closer to the mic.
Closer? Yes. All right. If there were prior conditions which are now being adopted in this extension, are there conditions being attached again? Additional conditions being attached now?
Well, apparently we don't need to add conditions onto extensions, which I was unaware of until this morning.
Okay.
And if that's true, then the original conditions in my mind would simply carry over to the extension.
So if what the commission is being asked to approve today is an extension of the prior approved permit, then that is what you would be extending, is the prior approved permit, not a reevaluation of that permit, not a new permit. You're being asked to extend the prior conditions, which would apply now, continue to apply as they did prior, under the prior approved permit, which you are extending. So a qualifier wouldn't necessarily be applicable here because there are no other conditions that you would be applying. It would simply be the prior conditions extending to the new time frame under the original permit.
Okay.
Does it need to be included in the motion?
I'm sorry?
Reference to the original conditions, can that be stricken?
Well, the conditions, I mean, I'm not sure what you would mean by original, because a qualifier would imply that there are different sets of conditions, when here you're my understanding is staff is asking the commission to approve the prior permit in its entirety to extend for an additional amount of time, in which, correct, subject to the conditions that applied to the prior permit, not without changes. So unless staff is asking for something different than that, which I think would not necessarily fit into the category of an extension.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. I will go ahead, if there's any other questions from the commissioners to staff. Commissioner Brown, you have any questions or comments for staff?
No, I don't.
Okay. I will open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this agenda item is welcome to approach the podium, or if you are in the Zoom room, please raise your hand and we will call on you. Nobody wants to speak in chambers, and there's no hands in the Zoom room?
No.
We will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for action or any other discussion. This is in my district. I am in favor of approval. I am just not in the position to make any action. Please.
I move that the Planning Commission find that the use permit extension, UPX 22-02, applied by La Monica Science on property located at 131 Soda Bay Road, Lakeport, and further described as APN 008-019-69, is exempt from CEQA because it falls within the Categorical Exemption Class 1, CE 22-38, based on the findings set forth in the staff report dated August 25th, 2022.
Second?
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hess,
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Chair Price.
Aye. Motion carries.
I move that the Planning Commission find that the use permit extension, UPX 22-02, applied by La Monica Signs on property located at 131 Soda Bay Road, Lakeport, further described as APN 008-019-69, does meet the requirements of the Lake County zoning ordinance, and that the Planning Commission has reviewed and considered the categorical exemption, CE 22-38, which was adopted for this project, and the use permit extension, file number UPX 22-02, be granted and shall extend this use for the period of 5 years, subject to the conditions, and with the findings listed on the staff report dated August 25th, 2022.
Second?
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hess,
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Chair Price.
Aye. Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7-calendar-day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination. Showing a time of 9:55. Are you guys doing okay on you don't need a break or anything? Okay. I'd ask Commissioner Brown, but do you need a break? Or are you okay?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Okay, excellent. We will continue. Moving on to our
Met Towers.
6.f item, public hearing on consideration of proposed use permit UP 22-06 for 197-foot tall temporary meteorological towers intended to measure wind speed and categorical exemption CE 22-12. Applicant is Morgan Valley Wind Tower LLC. Project location 25650 Morgan Valley Road, Lower Lake, APN 012-014-02 and 08. And Eric, are you presenting this as well?
I'm presenting everything.
Excellent. We're in good hands.
Thank you, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Sure.
Yeah, the next two items are kind of unusual. The first item is 4 temporary towers that are intended to measure wind speed. And the purpose of them is to determine if Lake County might be a suitable location for wind-powered turbines. There is a neighbor who's very concerned about turbines going up in this location. And I indicated to the neighbor that these are not turbines. These are simply wind measuring devices. They're tall, but the footprints are fairly small. It would be a precursor to what essentially would be a major use permit if we did take into consideration any proposed wind turbines. It would have to go through a very separate process, and I'm sure they would be somewhat contentious given what they are. However, it is an alternative energy source, and an argument can be made that given everything in consideration, that we do need to look at alternative energy sources as a potential to grid power. So the property itself is large. It's over 1,000 acres. It's located on Morgan Valley Road, 25650 Morgan Valley Road in Lower Lake. Applicant's been named. Property owner is Larry Morrison. Site map. The properties themselves are outlined in the black. There are two, well, technically 4 different locations for the towers. The first one would be in the lower lot. They call it Met Tower number 4. The other 3 would be in the upper lot, which are towers 1, 2, and 3. Footprints are, as I indicated, fairly small at 1,300 square feet for footprint. The zoning is ag and ag preserve for the tower sites, and it's zoned RL for the access road, which initially started out as being a different road. However, there are 2 unrated bridges that would have to be crossed, and the applicant decided to take a different road at CAL FIRE's request, because the bridges that are on the original proposed road, which is here, and I can't see what it says, those 2 bridges are unrated. It wouldn't be in CAL FIRE driveway standards because the bridges aren't rated. So the secondary access would actually be used, which comes up along this part of the property, and it accesses the back side of it. Applicant's fine with that. They know they have to bring the interior driveway up to CAL FIRE driveway standards, similarly to the last cell tower that we reviewed. Tower sites are approximately located here and here, and you can see what the zoning is for that area. Tower elevations, these are not unlike the, I want to say the signs, feather signs that are around. These are just quite a bit bigger, and they have belay cables that would support the towers so they wouldn't fall over. And again, the intent is to measure wind speeds and different meteorological events that occur on this site. As is the case with any major use permit, we have to look at general plan conformance, Lower Lake area plan conformance, and zoning ordinance conformance. Major use permits require the 6 findings that I had mentioned earlier in a different application, that the use won't be detrimental to the health, safety, morals, welfare, comfort of persons residing or working in the neighborhood. We were able to make that finding. The property is significant, over 1,000 acres, and the towers would be roughly in the middle of these 2 lots. That just gives you a general location of it. So there's quite a bit of separation between the towers and the property lines as shown here. Number 2, the site is adequate in size, location, and physical characteristics to accommodate the use. The towers will be located about 800 feet from the nearest property line. I indicated the pad areas are fairly small at 1,300 square feet, and the properties are not in a scenic combining overlay zone. Number 3, streets, highways, and pedestrian facilities are reasonably adequate. The site is served by Morgan Valley Road, a paved 2-lane county road at this location, and by Butte Rock Ranch Road, which is a private unpaved shared access easement, and that's the one that would need to be brought up to CAL FIRE driveway standards. Number 4, there are adequate public or private services. Well, the towers don't require any services. I'm not clear on whether they require electrical. I indicated here that they did not. I believe the applicants here, they can address that, but there is power available to the site, so regardless of whether they require electrical or not, there is adequate services that can serve these towers if needed. Number 5, project complies with all applicable plans. We were able to make the finding that it does comply with the general plan, the Lower Lake Area Plan, and the applicable portions of the Lake County zoning ordinance. And finally, that there are no violations on the property for chapters 5, 17, 21, 23, or 26, and there are no documented violations on the property. Project analysis, 3 different zones apply to these properties. Article 5, agriculture, Article 6, ag preserve, and Article 7, rural lands. None of these zones name this type of use. The closest that we have would be found in Article 42.12, which allows overheight utility facilities. And I indicate that in here on this slide. Under Article 42, exceptions, the functionality of the towers is dependent on their height. They are meant to take readings primarily of wind speeds to determine whether this area is suited for wind turbines. I did indicate that a neighbor is very concerned about turbines being placed on the property, and that this use permit would not authorize any turbines. It would only authorize the temporary towers. And one thing I did want to mention, condition number 8 lists a 2-year approval time frame. The applicant has requested that that 2 years be stricken because they may actually need to have them up longer. And so I did want to point out that the applicant is requesting potentially a longer period of time than 2 years. They felt that 2 years may not be an adequate time frame to get all the readings that they need to determine whether or not this area is suited for wind turbines.
But condition number 8 allows for extensions. Why would the 2 years have to be changed?
I'm going to let the applicant address that.
Okay.
I believe the applicant's here. I'm not quite sure I've never encountered these types of towers before, so I'm not quite sure, what the needs are and what the characteristics are and that kind of thing.
Okay.
CEQA, we found that it could be categorically exempted based on the overall size. The footprint of the 4 towers is about 5,000 square feet on a 1,000-acre property. Staff determined that it did qualify for a CEQA exemption. I indicated that the neighbor, there were actually 2 neighbors that were concerned. Wayne Daugherty submitted a letter on August 19th, and Jay Bates actually did submit something on August 23rd. Initially he called and he was curious about the project, but he did send me several emails. The one on August 23rd is the one that he had requested be forwarded to the Planning Commission, and Jim Feenan did forward that to the Planning Commissioners. Our recommendation is to adopt Categorical Exemption 22-12 and to approve Major Use Permit 22-06 with conditions. And so with that, I can answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions from the commission to staff or the applicant other than the one? Okay. We'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. Anybody wishing to speak on this item is welcome to approach the podium. Good morning. And you will, there's also a little green piece of paper by the podium you can take back with you and fill it out and leave it on the table. So please be sure to state your first and last name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Wayne Doherty, and I have a few concerns. I own property out on Morgan Valley, off Beat Rock Ranch Road, and I just wanted to make sure that they were going to maintain the road and not leave us a mess after they put it up. I'd like to know that there's going to be some fire protection. We've already had 130 acre fire out there this year that took about 45 minutes for the fire department to respond to. We are a long ways out, but they have a water truck on site during construction. I'd like to know if they're going to get enough the grass removed so that right now that road is 1 lane and there are virtually no passing lanes and no turnaround places other than on people's private property off the main access road for people going in and out. So I wanted to make sure that they were going to address the fact that they needed to allow people getting in and out and not block up the road to a point we can't get in and out at any point in time. I also have some security concerns about looky-loos coming in the neighborhood and just wandering around when this is going on. There'd be some type of security to basically maintain it, because it is a neighborhood in its own respect. If you know, it is what it is, but it's still our neighborhood. And I just would like to make sure everyone's aware that it is our neighborhood and we get treated with that respect, that, you know, we don't have people riding in and out across our property that we don't know. The road is maintained, not leaving us with a mess afterwards. So with that, I'd like to tell you thank you. I'm not really objecting to the project. I just want to make sure we don't get kind of shafted and left out as it goes forward. So with that, I'd like to tell you thank you. That's what I have to say.
Thank you for your comment. Is there any, oh, yeah, you're welcome. Good morning. Just be sure to state your first and last name for me, please.
Okay, hi. I'm Callie Campbell. I represent the applicant. It's been great working with Eric. So I guess I'd start by addressing Wayne's concerns, is that?
Yes, and if you can just kind of direct them as a whole and towards us.
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
So again, these are temporary towers, as Eric mentioned. It'll take about 13 days to install them. We'll have about four people in the crew. These towers have been installed in the arid and semi-arid West by us in Wyoming, Arizona, other parts of California, Utah, and Montana, and we've never seen a risk of fire. I did some cursory research, and I've never seen any fire issues either. So I just want to highlight that fire is not a concern with these, although I know it's a very sensitive topic in this area. Construction-wise, we'll just be looking at a truck, like a normal-sized truck and a trailer, so we won't see, you know, major traffic or issues with the roads. And access-wise, I can commit that we're not accessing any property that we don't have access to. We do have leases with these 2 private landowners, and those are the only properties that we're going to be accessing. And then there was a question on the electricity need, and we do not need any utilities. They'll be powered by a solar panel mounted to the tower.
I also had a question about the conditions of approval. Item 8, you're requesting that 2-year number be stricken?
Yeah, we can live with the 2 years. I had mentioned to Eric if we could potentially get longer than that, just because really we're looking to collect 2 years worth of data. And I wanted a little bit of flexibility in case we have issues with the data loggers communicating with us and that kind of thing. But we can live with the 2 years and file an extension if we need to.
Yeah, that is provided for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Any other, does that conclude your comment?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, excuse me, ma'am. I did have one more question, and it responds to Mr. Doherty's comments. At the time those towers are taken down, reclamation will occur, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
remediation.
Yeah, and that's, I believe, a condition of approval as well.
Right. Just wanted to be sure Mr. Doherty knew that.
And that also touches on the 4290 road standards as well for the driveway. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I need to speak just a second again. The fire concerns aren't necessarily that, they are is the vehicles driving on the dry grass. That's why I feel we need to have a water truck out there. That area has the driest it's been in 1,200 years. We've already had one fire caused by this situation by another neighbor. I do not want to see, not having any way of putting out a problem before it becomes a problem when we can't get people up there fast. So what I'm concerned about is vehicles on the dry grass creating fire issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment or input on this item? You're welcome to approach the podium if you'd like to speak. Jim, do we have any hands in the Zoom room?
There's no hands in the Zoom room.
No hands in the Zoom room. Okay. I don't see anyone else wishing to have any public comment on this, so I will officially close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion or action.
If there is no further discussion, I'm prepared to offer a motion.
Commissioner Hess?
I move that the Planning Commission find that this project is eligible for a categorical exemption, file number CE 22-12, under CEQA section 15303E, as applied for by Morgan Valley Wind Farm LLC on property located at 25650 Morgan Valley Road, Lower Lake, further described as APN 012-014-02 and 08, will not have a significant effect on the environment, and therefore a categorical exemption shall be issued with the findings listed in the staff report dated August 25, 2022.
Second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hess.
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez.
Aye.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Chair Price.
Aye.
Madam Chair, I move that the Planning Commission find that the use permit UP 22-06 applied for by Morgan Valley Wind Farm LLC on property located at 25650 Morgan Valley Road, Lower Lake, further described as APN 012-014-02 and 08, does meet the requirements of section 51.4 of the Lake County zoning ordinance and grant the major use permit subject to the conditions and with the findings listed in the staff report dated August 25, 2022.
I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hess.
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez.
Aye.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Chair Price.
Aye. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7 calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination. Okay, I think we're just gonna go forward on this one, guys. Pulling up our last item is a public hearing on consideration of proposed use permit UP 18-34 to allow a 12-acre corn maze and a 3.8-acre pumpkin patch seasonal event. Applicant is Michael and Tanya Hatt. Project located at 4405 and 4410 Thomas Drive. APNs 008-033-36 and 008-035-58.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're trying to locate the PowerPoint for this one.
Okay, excellent. Excellent.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you,
All right.
Sam.
And last and certainly not least, we have the Michael Hatt Corn Maze and Pumpkin Patch. We're categorizing this as a special event venue. Oh, yeah. Can you hear me better?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. This is being categorized by staff as a special event venue. We have allowed this use at that location under 3 separate zoning permits, which permit special events in a limited capacity. So this use has actually been operational for the past 3 years. It is seasonal. He operates typically 45 days before Halloween. It's intended to be a family venue, primarily a corn maze and a pumpkin patch. He also wants a 100-foot tall flagpole, and he's got 5 shipping containers with fake roofs on them to make them look like Old West buildings. There would be hay rides, there would be other activities that are geared towards children and families. It's kind of a unique thing. It's in an area that's characterized by significant agriculture, and this is fitting right in with the character of the neighborhood. I'll get into that in a minute. This is an aerial photo when he first started the corn maze. I'm guessing it's probably 3 years old by now, this aerial photo. Permit type, I've indicated it would be a major use permit for special events. That way he wouldn't have to renew the zoning permit annually. It would be an ongoing seasonal activity on his property. I mentioned the shipping containers. He's proposing a bounce house. I mentioned the hay rides. It would be open about 45 days a year, but there's no restriction on that 45 days, so he could expand that or reduce that at his choosing. Total properties are 16 acres. They're divided by Thomas Road, which is this road right here. The pumpkin patch is on the right-hand side, and of course the corn maze is on the left. Zoning, it's zoned ag. Scenic combining, it's in the airport overlay zone. And the general plan designation is agriculture. This
Eric,
is what...
Could you go back to that slide? I'm sorry, it's a silly question, but are those words cut into the maze?
Yeah.
What's the
I believe it
meaning
says
of,
Can't
Wildhurst.
remember.
what is the meaning of that? Do we know?
Wildhurst, Kelseyville. Wildhurst is a winery, or was a tasting room, I believe, in Kelseyville. And then, yeah, there's like a wine bottle. So I believe usually they plan something ahead of time, and the way that they plant it, that it looks like that from aerial. So,
That's cool.
yeah, kind of neat. Go ahead.
You can see the zoning in the area. It's almost exclusively agriculture all the way around it. Rainbow Ag is directly across the highway from the Hat site, just to give you a location. It's an older Google Street View of the site during non-production. So, as is the case with any major use permit, we evaluate it for general plan, area plan, and zoning ordinance conformance. We were able to make the finding that it did comply with the general plan. It did comply with the Kelseyville area plan, which actually has several portions of it that refer to agricultural uses. And we were able to make the finding that it complied with the applicable zoning ordinance standards and criteria, primarily in Article 51.4, which have the major use standards and criteria. Number one, the use will not be detrimental to the health, safety, morals, comfort, and general welfare of persons residing or working in the neighborhood. Well, this use has already been up and operational through the zoning permits, and we've had no complaints on it at all. I have heard a lot of favorable comments from the general public about it, and it generally is appears to be very well supported by the community. And again, I've indicated that there are already established agricultural uses in the immediate vicinity that are around the property. Number two, the site is adequate in size, shape, location, and physical characteristics to accommodate the use. When they came in for the first zoning permit, I was a little bit concerned that they may not have enough room to park cars on the site. Since then, I've seen the site plan, which shows, I believe it's over 50 parking spaces. They've done some improvement to Highway 29 for a refuge lane turning into Thomas Road, and that was at the request of Caltrans. So Mr. Hatt has shown that traffic can be accommodated on site, and that the highway does not pose any kind of vehicular hazards according to Caltrans as it presently sits. Number 3, streets, highways, and pedestrian facilities. I've already indicated it's served by Thomas Road, and that there is adequate parking for over 50 cars on site. Those are not parked on Thomas Road, by the way. These are all parked on the private property. Number 4, adequate public or private services. We were able to make that finding. The project was evaluated by Environmental Health, Public Works, Caltrans, the Planning Department, Air Quality, and the Sheriff's Department. And we received no adverse comments from any notified agency. Number 5, the project is in conformance with the applicable provisions of the code, general plan, and any approved zoning or land use plan. And we were able to make the finding that through the major use permit, special events are allowed. There are conditions that are tied to this, and it can be permitted through a major use permit per Article 51.4 and as stated in Article 27 in Table B. And finally, that there are no violations on the site. There actually had been a violation on the site. That was in 2018. The applicant was made aware of the violation and resolved it immediately. And since then, there are no further violations that are occurring on the property. CEQA, there is no significant site disturbance needed other than annual planting of corn and pumpkins. The site is developed, it's been used for crop production, and we believe it qualifies for a categorical exemption under sections 15.301 and 15.303. I believe that's sub C. Neighbors were notified. We received no adverse comments at all. And as I indicated, we've received no complaints during the 3 years of operation under zoning permits. So with that, we're recommending the Planning Commission adopt Categorical Exemption CE 18-50 and approve use permit UP 18-34 with conditions. And one thing I did want to mention, the applicant applied for this use permit in 2018 and requested that it be put on hold once he realized that he could be approved annually under zoning permits. After 3 of the zoning permits were issued, the applicant then realized that, well, it's kind of silly to come back annually with a request for a new zoning permit, so he wanted to reactivate this use permit, and we agreed to do so, and that's why it's a 2018 application.
Thank you for that. Does that conclude your report, Eric?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Any questions for staff? Okay, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment officially. If you'd like to speak on this item, please feel free to approach the podium. Good morning. Please be sure to state your first and last name for me and take one of those green sheets with you whenever you're done.
Thank you. Michael Adams. I live in Findlay. I'm generally in support of the project. I think it's been an asset to the community, but I think the prior mitigations that were done by Caltrans and by the applicant to address traffic did not take into consideration that previous mitigations when Rainbow Ag, the winery, and the reuse of Scully Packing began to increase the intersection use there. And I believe one of the mitigations there on the highway was transition lane going south off of Thomas onto 29. I live and use that intersection quite often, and my other part of my family lives on the other side of the highway, so we're across that highway very frequently. We have several friends who have been lost on the highway, and so that's an important issue for us. I became aware when, one day in a rather busy time, I went to leave to go to Kelseyville in that direction, and found that the transition lane that had been put in when Rainbow Ag had been put in there, allowed transition going south, that had been eliminated with a left turn lane. So the potential for a head-on in the left turn lane at different times might be there. It just made me aware of it. So when this came up, I saw it and thought, well, maybe some kind of mitigation needs to be addressed to relook at that traffic issue. I'm supportive of the thing. I think it's a beautiful thing for the community. Everybody's comments about it are great, but I think some mitigation with regard to the southbound traffic. The other thing is that this is a pretty busy time for Scully Packing. They have a lot of that's their truck traffic direction to the south onto 29 off of Thomas. And those trucks, are a hazard to come off of there. And if they have no transition onto the highway, I believe that it's a potential hazard. So I appreciate your comments, your consideration for that issue. I'm in support of the project. Just we need to be sure that we remember that we've lost people to that highway. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Any hands in the Zoom room, Jim? No?
No, I don't see any.
Okay. We can officially close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion. I just had a thought, and maybe is the applicant here, Eric?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Correct, or if you can correct me if I'm wrong, when the pumpkin patch is open, isn't there like a Caltrans type of sign that says special event that's kind of blinking? If you could approach the podium and answer, that would be great, because I think I remember seeing that it kind of gives people a heads up, but I also agree with the neighbor's comment about the trucks and everything going in and out of there with the winery and the packing sheds. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, my name's Michael Hatt, and at the time that we filed for the first application, and everyone was notified, all the public agencies, including Caltrans. Caltrans came out and put their those little things out across the road where they found out how much traffic was coming from the different roads in different directions, and they determined at that time that I put in a turning lane, and that they would close the acceleration lane, or whatever they call it, from the other direction. And I did so, and at that time I think it cost me around $35,000 to do that. And they considered everything. In fact, they talked to Scully Packing at that time, because Scully Packing did have an objection to it, or someone in the neighborhood had an objection to it. And after they discussed it, they determined that the best benefit, because of the width of the road, and there could only be one acceleration lane, was to put it in to my side instead of the other side, from the other direction.
And to give you the protected turn lane.
Correct.
Okay.
Scully Packing, their season is basically over by the time, as far as the trucks, from when the corn maze and pumpkin patches is operating. Essentially, Scully Packing, the trucks, pear season's about over. Although I understand the other person's concern that got up here, as far as trucks being able to accelerate, but Caltrans did the investigation, and that's what they determined.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could add a little bit, I was the planner processing those annual zoning permits.
Excellent.
I do remember the ongoing conversations with Caltrans, and at that time, it was more of a concern with the equestrian traffic, which would pull out there and needed someplace safe to accelerate. But the conclusion of those discussions was that Caltrans was comfortable with using Live Oak Drive as an alternative for the equestrian traffic.
Oh, okay.
Additionally, if I could make note, there is a little bit of inconsistency in the staff report regarding the number of cars allowed on site. It talks about 200 cars per day, but up to 100 on site at a time. However, the site plan does show plenty of parking for about 50 cars. So we would just recommend that for additional clarification, propose the addition of a condition limiting the number of cars on site to that 50 car parking spot. Probably won't be an issue, because if you drive by and there's no place to park, you're probably just going to keep going and come back around later.
Go to Kelseyville, grab a coffee, and come back.
But yes, just to make sure that we don't have cars going, willy-nilly throughout the corn or the pumpkin patch, we may want to limit it to the parking that's allowed on site, or that is available on site. I didn't see anything for backup or overflow parking, so maybe
Yeah.
Mr. Hatt can address that.
Yeah, the plan that the surveyor prepared, I think there's over 100 parking spots, actually. Originally, it was 50, and then we widened the parking area so it could hold up to 120, I think, but it depends how close people park, because the parking spaces aren't, the width isn't marked on the gravel.
Pear season is in August, but the packing shipping is after the season is over. A lot of the exit traffic off of Thomas onto 29 is going on right now. Pear season is just about done, and I was a pear grower for a number of years, and that's going to go on through into the fall. So the traffic there is in conflict with the time. I want to be sure you know, I support this project. I just want to be sure that it's a safe place for our community. And I really commend you for, your idea, your vision and everything. It's really great. It really fits with the communities. But, we've lost some people on the highway. And maybe Caltrans needs to start talking about, the amount of traffic in that intersection. Maybe it's their responsibility. I'm not saying this responsibility, but to look at, you've got a packing shed, you have the winery, Shannon Ridge, with the Mercantile now is increasing traffic if you look at it. Rainbow Ag was added there. And then this is just 1 month of time, but all the rest of the time that intersection has an increased amount of traffic that needs to be considered by maybe a bigger fish than just one little corn maze for 1 year, 1 month a year. So anyhow, that's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any concerns from the commission at all?
No concerns. I like the idea of the corn maze and the pumpkin patch. It reminds me of my childhood. And I think the traffic concerns are valid. On the other hand, given the seasonal nature of this, I don't think it compounds the problem in an annual way in any way. And it might be a bigger issue for Caltrans to determine the future of the flow there.
I agree. And just to kind of, echo what he was saying, whether it's pears or grapes, that intersection is a little, I won't say sketchy at times, but it does get a little busy. And also, as somebody who has visited the corn maze, you can tell that it's going to be a busy spot, and you just kind of put your mind together and just make sure that there's that there are things going around. Be careful when you're pulling out of there. But I am in favor of the project. I just I can't make a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the Planning Commission find that the use permit UP 18-34 applied for by Michael Hatt on property located at 4405 and 4410 Thomas Drive, Kelseyville, California 95337, APNs 008-033-36 and 008-035-58, is exempt from CEQA because it falls within the categorical exemption class 4 under CEQA section 15304, and as listed in the staff report dated August 25, 2022, and with the additional condition added today.
Okay, I second. Roll call vote?
Commissioner Hess.
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez.
Aye.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Chair Price.
Yes. Motion carries.
Just for added clarification, that amendment is to add a condition that parking will not exceed on-site allowed parking spaces. We won't use the 50
Number.
since there are more, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
I move that the Planning Commission find that the use permit UP 18-34 applied for by Michael Hatt and on property located at 4405 and 4410 Thomas Drive, Kelseyville, California 95337, and further described in this motion, does meet the requirements of Section 27.30 and Section 51.4 of the Lake County zoning ordinance, and grant the major use permit subject to the conditions and with the findings listed in the staff report dated August 25, 2022, and as amended here today.
I second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hess.
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez.
Aye.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Chair Price.
Yes. Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7-calendar-day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination. Quick thank you to staff, one-handed today. Well, not necessarily, but we appreciate your time today, Eric. And we will turn it over to our director for our department update.
Thank you. A couple meetings ago, our former director notified the commission regarding a conflict for use of the board chambers for the September 22nd meeting due to the Board of Supervisors holding their budget hearings at that time. Since then, a few projects look like they'll be ready to present to the Planning Commission, one of which is a time-sensitive project for a county-led project. So what staff would like to get is a consensus from the commission today if you would be amenable to holding our regularly scheduled meeting, but in a different room. Conference room C and B are both available at that time. Or if the commission would prefer to cancel or adjourn the 22nd meeting, and if so, possibly hold a special meeting that next Thursday in the afternoon or that next Wednesday in the morning when we could be in board chambers. Our preference would be to not wait for a month for our time-sensitive county-led project. It just helps to keep our different departments, I think this one is Public Works, it helps to keep their projects moving forward.
For sure, and kind of prevents a backlog at that point, you know, okay.
Would the option to do it via Zoom also work, or does it have to be in chambers?
We will maintain our hybrid style of meeting, so Zoom attendance is possible. And wherever we meet, either in conference room C or B, we do have Zoom capabilities there as well.
Okay,
So there would not be a lack of access from the public.
okay.
I would prefer meeting on the same day in a different room. I've sort of scheduled my life around
Thursdays.
planned days, and so
I appreciate
that would
that.
work for me, certainly.
Commissioner Brown, do you have
I'm
any
also in support
input?
of making that change.
Okay, so keeping it the same day, just changing the location here at the courthouse?
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
Super.
I'm in agreement with that, and then also having the option for teleconferencing is good for legal.
Commissioners, yes, the findings you have renewed today, or readopted today, relate to emergency situations, right? So the absence of a commissioner would have to relate to the emergency on which the findings you made, well, that informed the findings you made, right? So in this case, the findings were related to the continued COVID impacts and allows for the absence of commissioners in the case of an impact from that particular emergency. So for example, Commissioner Brown today had concerns, so he's attending remotely so as not to impact the people who are present today, potentially. So that appropriately fit within the emergency and the findings that you made again today. So I don't think that a smaller room and tightly packed space fits into that analysis correctly. So I don't think it would be supportable that a commissioner not attend or attend remotely because the room is smaller.
I agree. I understand what you're saying.
Under those findings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but the public can always attend remotely. The AB 361 findings don't relate to the public, so the public can always attend remotely. That can be stressed on the notice, that Zoom is available for participation, call-in is available for participation if anyone is concerned that the new venue for that day is too small for them to fit in.
And approximately, like compared to this room, just because of the public, I mean, between ourselves, we can, for example, if I say I have a concern, but what about for the public and all of us being in that room that they might not know, that we might not know, or them being exposed, or that's just my question, just the size difference between this room and the proposed room.
Correct. So for example, it does fit into the findings in relation to having 6-foot separations and mask requirements, and anything that fits into that category for the safety of those attending the meeting, so that the meeting can continue and your commission can continue its business. So are you asking whether or not commissioners can attend remotely because because the space is tighter, and then there would therefore be a greater risk of exposure, therefore they'd attend? That would fit into the analysis for the emergency and the findings you've made, yes.
Okay. So do we have to come to a consensus right now, Director? Would you like us
Just
to?
a consensus is fine. If an actual motion is necessary, we'll add it to the September 8th agenda.
Okay,
Thank you.
excellent. Thank you. Any other office news or updates?
That is all I have for now. Thank you.
Excellent.
Our internal processes are continuing to get upgraded and changed as we move forward. And let's see, what else can I report? We have a great staff. It's been a real pleasure working with our planners. Mary Darby did a great job of building a team that's smart and enthusiastic and dedicated. It just makes it a real pleasure to be working with them.
It's great to hear.
Excellent. And I'm sure they're happy to see you too. That probably helps. Commissioner Chavez, did you have anything to add?
Yes, so I guess this kind of a reminder about the Planning Commission conference. I think the deadline's mid-September for us to make up our minds and to be to sign ourselves up to if we're going or not. So Jim, I believe there is a deadline for I don't know if you have the access or the link to
The CCCPA?
CCCPA.
Yeah.
That says the deadline for to reserve the rooms and pretty much to say that we're going to be in attendance or not.
Okay.
I do plan on going, so.
I'll probably go as well. It was a lot of learning last year. It was a lot of fun.
So just so we can kind of get that list going or send an email to the commission to see who's going to be able to, and so that we can start signing up and letting them know that we are going to be there, whoever is planning on attending.
Okay.
We will prepare and distribute that email shortly to the commission. And so your earliest response to let us know if you wanted to attend would be very helpful for our planning.
You got it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And with that being said, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.